The 7 nutrition lies you still believe. Imagine yourself standing in a supermarket in front of a shelf lined with a dozen little yogurt jars, each one boldly labeled rich in probiotics, boosts immunity, or zero fat. And here you are, circling the same display for the 3rd time, feeling a gentle but unmistakable wave of confusion rising inside you, as though you've been pulled into some sort of game whose rules someone wrote down but forgot to show you. And you're no longer sure whether you're even playing correctly, because every day you hear one thing, and a week later it's the complete opposite. First, milk is hailed as a savior from osteoporosis, then suddenly it's accused of triggering inflammation. Next, you're told fasting is the path to longevity, only to learn a month later that the very scientific paper which inspired you to skip breakfast is now being harshly criticized for data fabrication. And so you find yourself wondering, who ultimately is telling the truth? The dietitians, the scientists, the bloggers, or perhaps your own grandmother who ate lard with black bread until the age of 90 and never once heard the word gluten. As a journalist, I have spent the past 2 years diving headfirst into the labyrinth of nutrition science, medical studies, marketing reports, and most crucially, into conversations with real people. Those suffering from eating disorders, those who have tried dozens of diets, those who once believed in miracle pills or the magical powers of kale. And each time I opened a new folder of scientific publications, I wasn't searching for answers. I was searching for questions, because the truth about nutrition doesn't hide in flashy headlines. It lurks in the pauses between lines, in the fine print of footnotes, in how a hypothesis is phrased, who funded the research, and how the results are interpreted. And today, I want to share with you not just that we've been eating the wrong way, but why we've believed for so long that we were eating the right way, despite all the body's warning signals, despite the constant fatigue, the bloating after every meal, that inner voice whispering, listen, something's off here. A voice you kept silencing with Instagram ads or yet another book by a doctor whose name appears on the cover followed by an exclamation mark. And you know what's truly astonishing? We're not any less intelligent than previous generations. We simply live in an era where information has become simultaneously more accessible and more dangerous, because there's simply too much of it, and it's packaged too beautifully, like a candy wrapped in foil, inside which lies nothing but powdered sugar, while the wrapper itself shines like gold. Let's begin with the most fundamental myth, the one underpinning nearly every diet trend, the one we've heard since childhood as indisputable truth. Calories are all that matters. How many times have you heard the phrase, if you eat 500 calories less per day than you burn, you'll lose half a kilogram in a week? Logically, it's flawless, like physics, like an equation. But the body is not a closed system. It's a living, dynamic, incredibly complex biological orchestra where each instrument, a hormone, an enzyme, a bacterium, plays its own part. And if you simply cut out the violins from the score, thinking you're saving on extra calories, the entire orchestra may descend into dissonance. And here's an example. In the year 2012, the journal The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published an article about a famous study conducted at Harvard University, where 3 groups of people followed different diets, high fat, high carb, and balanced, over the course of a year, all consuming the same number of calories. And do you know what the results showed? The group eating more unsaturated fats and fewer refined carbohydrates lost weight faster, felt more energetic, and showed improved insulin resistance markers despite having the same caloric intake as the others. And this is no isolated case. In 2015, Stanford University repeated the experiment with 2,000 participants, and once again, calorie quality outweighed calorie quantity. Because a calorie from olive oil and a calorie from white sugar are not the same thing for your body, just as a gift in a beautiful box and one wrapped in newspaper aren't the same for you, even if the chocolate inside is identical. The difference lies in how you receive it, how your brain perceives it, and how your body responds to it. And if you still believe calories are just numbers on a label, you're missing the most crucial point. Calories are signals, and your body responds to them not with kitchen scales, but with hormonal waves, neurotransmitters, and your microbiome, which, by the way, harbors 100 trillion bacteria. That's 10 times more than the number of cells in your body. And it's precisely these microbes that decide whether the yogurt you've eaten turns into energy or fat tissue. And yes, I know what you're thinking right now, but don't we still need to count calories after all? And I'll answer you honestly, no, you don't. If you're eating whole, unprocessed foods, because nature itself has established balance. When you eat an apple, you won't stop at 1 if you need 5. You'll simply feel full. But if you eat a chocolate bar, you might devour 3 and still crave more, because it doesn't send your brain the enough signal. It just delivers a quick surge of glucose and dopamine, triggering a dependency mechanism, not physiological, but psychological. And this brings us to the second enormous misconception, one that's held firm for half a century like a stubborn myth. Fat makes us fat. Oddly enough, this idea didn't originate in a lab, but in a political office, back in the year 1958, when President Dwight Eisenhower suffered a heart attack, plunging all of America into panic, and cardiologists, searching for a simple explanation for a complex disease, turned their attention first to blood cholesterol and then to dietary fats. And so, without waiting for evidence, without even grasping the difference between saturated and unsaturated fats, between trans fats and omega-3s, they made a sweeping generalization. Fat equals harm. And to compensate for reduced fat in products, manufacturers began adding sugar, lots of sugar, twice as much as before, to everything, yogurts, sauces, bread, even baby food. And thus, a paradox emerged. People were eating low-fat, yet gaining weight faster. And only in 2008 did a major meta-analysis in The Lancet reveal that saturated fat consumption shows no direct link to cardiovascular disease. And, moreover, replacing fats with carbohydrates, especially refined ones, increases the risk of insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes. And here's an example. In Japan, where the traditional diet includes plenty of fatty fish, avocado, and sesame oil, the obesity rate stands at just 4%. Whereas in the United States, where fat-free products fill every store shelf, it's 42%. And this isn't about culture or genes. It's about how we interpret scientific data, how we oversimplify complexity down to the level of a slogan on packaging. And when I asked Dr. Hiroko Tanaka, a nutritionist from Tokyo, why the Japanese aren't afraid of fat, she smiled and said, because we don't eat fat separately from everything else. We eat it as part of a whole dish, in balance, like a note in a melody. And that, balance, not elimination, is the key to everything. And here arises the next myth, perhaps the most destructive of all. Carbohydrates are poison. If you've ever tried the keto diet, you know this feeling. The first 3 days, you're walking around in a fog, your head aches, your hands tremble, you crave sleep, and they tell you it's normal, it's adaptation, it's ketosis. But do you know that ketosis isn't just a metabolic state? It's an emergency survival mode in which the body starts breaking down muscle to produce glucose, because the brain still demands it, even during starvation. And while short-term studies show weight loss on keto, long-term ones paint a very different picture. In 2019, Annals of Internal Medicine published a study tracking 30,000 people over 12 years, and it turned out that those adhering to a very low-carb diet had a 32% higher risk of premature death, especially from cardiovascular causes. And the reason is simple. When you cut out carbs, you cut out fruits, legumes, whole grains, and with them, fiber, polyphenols, B vitamins, magnesium, zinc. And even if you eat vegetables, their quantity is often insufficient to sustain your microbiome, which begins to die off without fiber, meaning production drops of short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which, by the way, protects the intestinal lining and reduces inflammation throughout the body. And here's an interesting fact. Among the Hadza people of Tanzania, hunter-gatherers who still live as our ancestors did 10,000 years ago, the diet consists of about 70% carbohydrates, mostly from tubers, honey, and fruit. And yet they have virtually no diabetes, obesity, or autoimmune diseases. and their microbiome is 3 times more diverse than that of urban Europeans. And when Stanford researchers offered them a keto-style diet for 2 weeks, their blood glucose levels began fluctuating and their energy plummeted. And after returning to their usual eating pattern, it took them nearly 3 weeks to restore balance. And what does this tell us? That our bodies aren't designed for radical restrictions. They're designed for diversity, for seasonality, for eating what grows around us at the right time in the right amounts, and without fear, especially without fear of gluten, the next monster seemingly unleashed from the lab straight into the masses, compelling millions to give up bread, pasta, even soy sauce, unaware that true celiac disease affects only 1% of the global population, while the rest experience symptoms, bloating, fatigue, headaches, likely caused by something entirely different, FODMAPs, that is, fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, found not only in wheat, but also in apples, onions, garlic, and milk. And when you simply eliminate gluten, you inadvertently reduce FODMAPs too and feel relief. But that doesn't mean gluten is to blame. It means your gut reacts to certain types of carbohydrates. And yes, I've heard the stories, like my friend's friend who cured migraines by cutting out gluten, or my colleague's husband who lost 15 kilograms in a month. But do you know what unites all these stories? The absence of controls, the absence of blind testing, the absence of other factor exclusions. Because when you suddenly change your diet, you're not just removing one component, you're altering everything: sleep schedule, stress levels, physical activity, even social habits. And the brain, eager to find cause and effect, latches on to the most dramatic change. I cut out gluten and I got better. But in reality, perhaps you simply started sleeping more, or stopped drinking alcohol, or added walks. And here's another point. Many gluten-free products contain 2 to 3 times more sugar and cornstarch to compensate for the lack of dough elasticity. And in the end, you're not getting a healthier alternative, but an even more processed product. And when researchers from Cambridge compared labeled gluten-free crackers with regular ones, they found the latter often had higher fiber content and a lower glycemic index. And this leads us to yet another myth. Natural is always better. After all, how many times have you heard, choose organic, no pesticides there? And of course, organic products matter for ecology, for soil, for bees. But when it comes to your personal health, the vitamin difference between an organic and a conventional apple is less than 5%. And pesticide residue levels in the overwhelming majority of cases fall far below the maximum allowable concentrations set by the World Health Organization. And moreover, in 2018, a meta-analysis covering 293 studies concluded that organic foods do not reduce the risk of chronic diseases compared to conventional ones. And yes, there are exceptions. For instance, organic milk contains more omega-3 because the cows graze on grass. But if you can't afford organic, it doesn't mean your nutrition is doomed. On the contrary, it's better to eat conventional spinach than to skip it entirely, because a greens deficiency is far more dangerous than traces of pesticides. And this reminds me of Anna from Warsaw, who avoided vegetables for years, fearing nitrates, until she ended up in the hospital with anemia. And only after meeting a dietitian did she understand that nitrates in vegetables, even in excess of normal levels, convert in the body to nitric oxide, a substance that dilates blood vessels and improves circulation. And that the real risk lies not in vegetables, but in sausages, where nitrates bind with amino acids at high temperatures to form nitrosamines, carcinogens. And see how easily you can get lost if you don't look at the context? Now let's talk about the slipperiest myth of all, detox. Every spring, millions of people worldwide buy juices, pills, and teas labeled cleanses the liver, eliminates toxins, gives you a new life. But do you know that your body is the most sophisticated detox center on the planet? You have a liver that processes around 2,000 liters of blood per day, kidneys filtering 150 liters of plasma, plus the lymphatic system, skin, lungs, all working 24/7, no weekends. And if they're struggling, it's not because you need to drink lemon water on an empty stomach, but because something serious is off: chronic sleep deprivation, constant stress, excessive alcohol consumption, or insufficient water intake. And a study published in Clinical Toxicology in 2017 analyzed 78 commercial detox programs and found not a single piece of evidence supporting their effectiveness. Moreover, in 3 cases, acute kidney failure was recorded due to excessive oxalate intake from green juices. And you know what's most ironic? The term toxin in these marketing campaigns is used so vaguely that it literally covers everything, from heavy metals to negative energy. And when I asked a biochemistry professor from Zurich what he thinks of detoxes, he laughed and said, if humans didn't have a built-in detoxification system, they wouldn't survive a single day in the modern world. And that's true. We evolved amid constant exposure to toxins in plants, in soil, in water, and our enzymes adapted to neutralize them, provided we give the body the right resources, namely sufficient protein for glutathione synthesis, sulfur-containing amino acids, cysteine, methionine, found in eggs, garlic, cabbage, B vitamins, and magnesium. And if you want to support detox, start not with juice, but with a proper breakfast. Eggs, avocado, spinach, black coffee without sugar, and you'll get everything you need without risking your health. And by the way, speaking of breakfast, here's another myth. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. This claim emerged in the 1940s when the Kellogg's company launched a massive advertising campaign convincing parents that breakfast cereal would make their children smarter and more energetic. And the idea stuck. But modern research shows that for some people, skipping breakfast reduces overall calorie intake and improves insulin sensitivity, while for others, it leads to overeating at lunch and decreased concentration. And the issue isn't breakfast itself, but individual rhythm, your so-called circadian rhythm, which is unique to each person. And if you're a morning lark, you'll likely feel comfortable eating early. But if you're a night owl, your body may not fully wake up until 11, and forcing it to digest an omelet at 8 is like starting a car engine in freezing weather without warming it up. And here, it's crucial not to follow dogma, but to listen to your body, to ask yourself, am I truly hungry, or do I just habitually eat at this time? And if you feel mild hunger around 10, start with something light, a handful of nuts, kefir, a banana, and observe how your body responds, because nutrition isn't an instruction manual, it's a dialogue. And the more attentively you listen, the more precise the answers you receive. But perhaps the most dangerous myth isn't about any specific food, it's about the approach itself. There's one correct diet for everyone. We live in a world where every week a new perfect system emerges. Paleo, veganism, intermittent fasting, raw food. And each is presented as a universal solution, a holy grail. But the truth is that genetics, microbiome, medical history, stress levels, sleep, physical activity, even geographic location, all make your body as unique as a fingerprint. And what saved one woman from autoimmune thyroiditis might worsen symptoms in another. And a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2021 showed that 2 people eating the exact same avocado and egg sandwich had blood glucose levels an hour later differing by 2.5 times. And this wasn't a measurement error. It was genuine biological variability. And so instead of searching for the best diet, we should learn to read our own bodies through food journals, through tracking well-being, through simple tests. How do you feel 2 hours after eating? Is there bloating, drowsiness, irritability? Does your mood shift depending on what you've eaten? And when I started keeping such a journal myself, I discovered that it wasn't milk causing my bloating, as I'd believed for years. It was the combination of milk and banana. They were fine separately, but together they triggered fermentation in my gut. And once I simply stopped pairing them, the problem vanished in 3 days. No pills, no diets, just observation. And this is the most powerful tool we have, attention. And it's free, available to everyone, and doesn't require a $99 per month app subscription. You know, once I met Maria, a doctor from Buenos Aires, diagnosed with ulcerative colitis at 28, told, it's lifelong, you'll be on medication until the end. And she believed it, took drugs for 5 years until she landed in intensive care due to side effects. And then she started digging herself, not on Google, but in scientific databases, PubMed, Cochrane. She learned to read studies, trace funding sources, compare sample sizes. And 2 years later, she designed her own diet, not based on trends, but on data about her microbiome. She tested it in a lab, her genetic markers. She had an MTHFR enzyme deficiency affecting folate metabolism. And simple self-observation, what actually helped her? And do you know what happened? 18 months later, remission set in. And she still takes no medication today. And when I asked her the secret, she said, I stopped searching for a magic pill and began studying myself as a separate universe. And this is what I want to convey to you. You're not a statistic, not an average. You're a complex, living, ever-changing system. And your nutrition must be just as flexible, sensitive, adaptive. And there's no point following a diet that works for a fitness blogger with 3 assistants and a personal chef if you have 3 children, a job from 8 to 6, and 1 hour of free time per day. Because sustainable nutrition isn't what lasts 30 days, it's what lasts 30 years. And it's built not on restrictions, but on understanding. Not on fear, but on trust. In yourself, in your body, in its wisdom, forged over millions of years, knowing far more than any Instagram guru. And yes, I understand this sounds almost too simple, but sometimes the simplest things are the hardest because they demand responsibility, time, and the courage to say, I will no longer believe on faith, I will verify. And once you begin doing that, you'll be amazed how many myths crumble, how much space opens up for real knowledge, real choice, real freedom. The kind that doesn't begin with giving up bread, but with the decision, I deserve to know the truth about what I eat. And if this article made you reflect, even for a moment, on a single belief you once considered unshakable, then I've already succeeded. But don't stop here. Keep going. Read primary sources, ask questions of dietitians, experiment within safe limits, keep records. And remember, every meal isn't a battle with yourself. It's an opportunity to meet yourself a little more closely, a little more deeply, a little more honestly. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you no longer fear the word carbs. Don't panic at the label fat. Don't trust packaging claims, but simply choose what resonates in your body as a yes. And this isn't perfection, it's freedom. And it doesn't begin next Monday. It begins with your next breath, your next bite, your next question. What if everything I believed was just a myth? And if you're ready to find the answer, go ahead. Your body is already waiting for your attention.